truly he is that beautiful image through his life. George is cardiovascular, right? Cardiovascular surgeon, and also at the University of Minnesota, he is a professor, assistant, what is it? Whatever. Professor at the University of Minnesota, because there's an inside story about this whole thing. Every time he would come to Kenya, Mbabulis would make him like the leader of some university, the master.
No, it's better, the owner.
The owner, right. Every time he would go somewhere, Mbabulis would tell him, this is the owner of the Mayo Clinic, and he is the...
I was like, wow.
So I wanted to make sure I got as accurate as possible. But look, with all of that, and he has a beautiful family in Minnesota, but with all of that, he dedicates probably half of his life to service. I remember one time, and especially for you young adults who always feel like you're too busy for God, like he is a beautiful example of how God truly blesses and cares for his children when they do his work. And that's what George does. He has been to Ethiopia, Bolivia, Libya, Liberia, during the time of the outbreak, what was it? The Ebola crisis, he was out there. He's been to Tanzania, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, I said already, everywhere. He works with Abuna Dawood Lemri. He was the one that started Semana, the Coptic Medical Association, Christian, is it Coptic or Medical? Coptic Medical Association of North America, to have young adults and young professionals go out and start serving before they started working, and brings people from everywhere to serve God. And I remember one time I was talking to him about his schedule, and he was telling me how he's trying to figure out that he only works 3 days a week, so the other 3 days he can make sure that he's out in mission. And I was like, George, that's insane. He's like, but that's his life. That's how he is. And I just...
We're done.
Okay, I am done. I'm done. But I just have to tell him who you are.
Setting it up.
But honestly, guys, truly, we're very blessed to have him with us. And on top of all that, God is giving him truly the gift of speaking. So I'm really blessed by always the gift of teaching that he has, that he gives to all of us. Every time he used to come to the mission, we would all learn something from him, and has a zeal and a fire. And really, as young men and women, that should be our life. Is that beauty to ashes, that ashes to beauty is a way of life for us. And so you guys saw the different talks that we're going to have, and so please be attentive, please ask questions, and George, especially at the campfire, will make it interactive. And I was telling him that you definitely have to tell stories. So tomorrow night at the campfire will be story night too, about different stories. So please, I hope that we can walk out of here this next day and a half having that heart of service. Okay, so with that, George, welcome.
I'm going to ask the Lord to pray. Let's send up a prayer, a special prayer, just for us as a group, that God will give us that.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to be in your presence, to hear your word, and to rekindle our hearts and our minds to serve you wholeheartedly. We pray for a special prayer and a special blessing for your son George, that you will anoint his mouth and anoint his words to touch our hearts and our mind. We pray in Jesus' mighty name, with the prayer and intercession of the Virgin Mary and Saint Mark, and hear us when we pray to you thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever.
All right. Is everyone awake, or you guys are still okay? You want to do some jumping jacks? No? 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 Oh, come on. That's fine. Okay, so first of all, it's a blessing that I'm here with Father Mark and Father Mina. Father Mina is not only a father to me, but he's also a very dear brother. We've crossed paths in many different times, in very tough times, believe it or not, like very tough times when you really need a man of prayer to pray for when you're really in bad need. This guy knows how to pray, so you know what? You're going to use him for that. Second thing, you know, you come to these talks and there's a lot of mixed emotions. Because there is a reason why you're all here. And yet when you look at where we come from and everyone is checking the news and what's happening back home, you know, you cannot distance yourself. You cannot say, well, you know what, we're here living the American dream and you know, what's happening in Egypt is, you know, yeah, sad news. You feel bad about it for a couple of minutes and then you move on. You look at this and this is like hits you in the face because you know what, we could have been those people over there. But then at the end, you look at, you know what, it's God's providence and control what happens to us. But on the other side, we cannot be complacent or, you know, almost like testing God in His tolerance and you know, in His longing for us. So when we talk about missions, it's the new fad. Everybody loves missions. Everyone wants to go on mission. Every church now has a mission. Everyone, you know, as I want to say, you know, we have Savannah right now, the Medical Association. We've got so many college people, graduates, servants, all medical professionals. This year, we're up to almost 10 mission trips, okay? You look at one of the Woods group, the Smithsonian, they're doing like 3 to 4 mission trips every month. So it is amazing. But are we doing it the right way? Are we doing it the correct way? Because as Abuna said, the theme is like what? You know what? From ashes to beauty. But what beauty are we reflecting? That's the key question that I want to come out from the talk tonight and then tomorrow. Because, yeah, we can reflect some beauty. We can be the most beautiful people that appear in front of others as the saviors of this world. But is this the beauty that we're talking about? Is this the beauty? Is this the ashes to the beauty that Isaiah was talking about? I don't think so. So, I was blessed to be given 2 talks. And I'm going to divide them and try to give you a little bit of a framework of how we're going to go about. Just like when you start everything, you could start from the wrong note. Well, here's a checklist of how to go and do missions, okay? Let's do, you know what? Okay, so here's what you're going to train on. Here's how you prepare yourself. Here's what to pack, okay? So, we can make a packing list for a mission trip. But that's not the right way to go on a mission trip. You got to start from the basics first. Why even care about a mission trip? Why even care? So the 4 talks, and this is kind of where Abuna Amin and I kind of talk back and forth, just for you to understand, because there's a logical sequence, okay, to these talks. The first one is biblical, which is what we're going to talk about today. Is like, you know what? Okay, how do we know from the Bible we're supposed to go on a mission? How are we supposed, like, is it like clear we're supposed to go on a mission trip? That's tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to go a little bit deeper because today we're going to talk about the story, the meta-narrative, the whole story of the biblical story itself. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about you, me, every one of us, a character. Because if we are not the right character, then we're doing it the wrong way. And then tomorrow night, we're going to do a little bit of a paradigm shift because everyone I said, okay, let's come to a mission trip. Everyone's mind just goes like right over there to Africa, to Bolivia, to Ethiopia, to Philippines. But then we're just completely, you know, we're forgetting the person next to you, the person behind you. And that is probably more important. Not more important, but more relevant at this point. So the mission back in the backyard. And then the last one is going to be how. I honestly would tell you, techniques, you'll learn it by time. You'll learn it by time. You'll learn it by trial and error. I've been, you know, my first mission trip was a little kid. I was starting med school. I was 18 at that time. That was about 27 years ago. Yeah, I'm 44 for the record. And I've got my oldest son is almost 17. Okay, I've got a almost 17-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 10-year-old. Okay, so Chris, Katrina, and Joey. And I was in med school at that time, and Amba Musa had like a meeting with Amba Toyos Moros, who was the only, you know, missionary bishop at that time. And they were saying, you know what, we need to get our kids in church a little bit more interested in missions. We need to get them like, you know what, this is something really cool. So we need the guinea pig. We need somebody to try it out on. We need a kid who's like completely lost, completely useless, and crazy, and let's send him to Africa, to Kenya. That was 1991. So I found out Musa, and I knew at that time it was a big blessing. He said, hey George, do you want to go to Kenya? I was like, yeah, that is so cool. You know, at that time, 1991, nobody even heard about Kenya. You know, Amatoa Sports was just by himself there. So, lo and behold, that was, 1991, and the rest for me was just a blessing and a seed. So, as we go on and talk about missions, if I tell you, close your eyes for a second. If I say the word mission, what is the first image that comes to your mind? Open your eyes. What's the first image that came to your mind? See, okay, kids, all right. Thank you for your honesty. What about you? You want to think, by the way, I pick on people, so you got to be very alert. How about you? Kenya, okay, how about you? Kids, how about you? Yes, no, in the back, sorry. Yeah, you.
Me?
Yes.
Poor kids.
Poor kids, okay. How about you? Kids, oh man. So you know what, when I actually brought this image, this is not too far from what you guys think, right? Okay? This is the image that we have in mind. But you know what? We're actually facing a big problem right now, and it's kind of interesting. When I was flying early this morning, I was kind of reading in a magazine I call Christianity Today, which is kind of one of, it's the largest widespread evangelical magazine. And I just read it to kind of get a sense of how do other people think about things. It's kind of interesting. They had two articles about it, one about missions and one about Nigeria. I've got to show you the one about Nigeria. It is scary. It is very scary. But the one about missions, there is something that struck me. Like, wow. The author of that article was saying, we are at a danger at this point in the world of churches and missions that we're facing what is called a secularized agape. A secularized agape. That, you know what, the agape has become secular. It's like, you know what, okay, we go to do this stuff to feel good about ourselves. We go because we feel bad. We want to have that sense of charity. We want to have that sense of community. We want to have that sense of just caring for the world. We want to have that sense of go and take some pictures with kids so we can feel good about ourselves. Because the source of us doing these missions is us. When we want to do a mission trip, okay, hey, all right, forget about a mission trip. Let's do, a food drive. Let's go to a shelter. Let's go to a kitchen soup and do some stuff. Trust me, that's great. But I honestly would tell you that is not what missions, and that's not what the Bible tells us about mission. Because I'm going to challenge you to say, did even God tell us to go and do missions? Oh man. I get excited, so. Okay, until it finds the signal. Did God tell us to do missions? Can somebody tell me, where did God tell us to do missions? To spend, by the way, last year, if you read last year, short-term missions budget in the United States approached almost $6 billion. It is an industry at this point. If we take those $6 billion and just actually send this cash to third world countries, we might do actually a lot more. Okay? There is now a big industry where people just, you know what, hey, I want to feel good about myself. Hey, I heard it's really great for a college resume. To get into, graduate school, I heard it's a great thing. How about you beef up your resume and go to a mission trip? Trust me, I'm not saying that's bad. I encourage a lot of kids. I actually use it as a bait, as a hook, to bring kids on these. But that's not it. So then, can anyone look me in the eye and tell me where God told us to do mission trips? Yes?
I'm not sure where, but when he was telling his disciples before he ascended.
Excellent! What did he tell them?
To go and preach his gospel.
Okay, go and baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. You know what's the fancy term for this going? What is it called? The Great Commission. Thank you. There's a fancy term. Thank you so much. But you know what? That's not the right answer. That's not the right answer. Where else? Where else did God tell us to go and do mission? Can anyone tell me? Dula, help me out here.
I'm just feeling for my own son, so I don't think.
No, it's you know, he absolutely said the right answer, but it's still the wrong answer. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
But at least he said something.
He said something. Thank you. Where else in the Bible did God tell us to go and do missions? Because honestly, if we don't have a biblical basis for why God told us to do missions, we're doing it for the wrong reason. Where else?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
When he appeared to, not appeared, but when Isaiah had a vision,
Uh-huh.
he told him, send me.
Okay.
Isaiah told him, send me, I'll go.
Okay, but that was Isaiah, not us.
No.
Okay.
But you said the Bible.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah,
We're not in the Bible.
we're not in the Bible. Okay, but you know it was Isaiah, not us. That's fine. Okay. I'll give you that. Yes. You want to say something?
There's a verse that says, something to the effect beautiful are the feet of those who...
Excellent. Excellent. I love that verse. I love that verse. Who else has another verse?
Not first, but the Good Samaritan.
Okay.
So this is someone who served someone who's not his from his culture or his friend, and he served them until he was well.
Wonderful story. Wonderful parable to learn from. So now I'm going to make you the case that God did not give us an order to mission. He gave us a story. He gave us a whole book. He gave us far more than just a single verse, which that verse is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. But that's not just it. So I want to walk you through a story where you as a group are going to answer how through that story, from cover to cover, tells us what is the biblical basis of missions. So when you learn about missions, you learn it the right way in the beginning. What is the biblical base? Because if I ask you what is the biblical base of mission, yes, I would agree with all your answers. You know what? The Great Commission, the Good Samaritan, Isaiah's story, absolutely correct. But that's not it. Just it. There's more to it. So now let's start with the story and see where we go. So here's how we're going to play this game. I'm going to show some images, and I'm going to ask you to find out in this image, what is the story, and how does this relate to mission? Because this is what we call the biblical theology of missions. It's a fancy term, but what it means basically, you know what? Where in the Bible we understand mission. What is the story? What is this picture? Huh? Creation of what? Of earth, okay, what else? Okay, of people, what else? There's no, I don't see a people there yet. No, not yet. Not yet. Huh? Creation of universe. Okay, so what do we know about missions? What do we learn from this story about missions? Huh? It's all over the world. Okay, I agree. What else? What else? That's the beginning, because you know what? They always tell you, if you want to know something, begin the story from where? The beginning, right? You know what? So as much as I agree with what he said, but that verse is in the middle of the story, right? If you want to know the story, start from where? The cover. This is the cover. What is in this cover? So creation of the universe. What else? What else? What is in the creation? If you go in Genesis 1 and see, when you start in the beginning of Genesis 1, and say, in the beginning, God, created heaven and earth. What does this got to do with mission? It all belongs to him. What else? He's in control. Anything else?
He cares for it.
He cares for it. I love that. Let me build a little bit on this. Mission is a pure act of love that comes out of you. When you think about it, did God need to create the universe? No. Did God need to create the other, which is called us? No. The Trinity existed from eternity, and that Trinitarian love, that love existed. So why, even fundamentally, that philosophical question, which I'm not going to get into philosophy, but why something exists when it should have never existed? God created the other. And when he created the other, he created it with a lot of glory, created it with a lot of love, created it with a lot of care. First thing in mission, honestly, is that you care about the other. Right? You care that the other exists. One of our biggest problems is that, you know what, right now in this world, we really try to shun away the other. I love it right now with our new devices, our new phones, is that, you know what, when you go in an elevator, you don't want to talk to somebody, the guy next to you in the elevator. What do? You just take out the phone and start kind of looking to the phone. When you're in the airplane, okay, right now you've got those noise-canceling headphones because I just don't want anyone to bother me. Okay? Because that other, I don't even, maybe I don't, I don't want to even start the conversation. Right? So the problem with this concept, when you look at our lives and how our lives are now becoming just very secluded, okay? Even when we make friends on Facebook, when we talk to people, we talk to them via texting. Our sense of the other and why they exist and why do I even care about their existence has diminished a lot. But when you look at the act of creation is the first act of mission, which basically what? That the other exists. The other exists. And the other was created with a lot of care. Second image. What is this image? What is this image?
The garden.
The garden of what?
Eden.
Eden.
How do you know it's the garden of Eden?
Everything is there.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful, looks pretty. Okay. There's a man and woman, there's Adam and Eve. Harmony. What does this got to do with mission? Because as I said, you want to know the basis of it, go back to the original story. What does this got to do with mission? Come on guys, wake up. I'm going to do some jumping jacks, otherwise. I'm actually going to pick on people. What does it got to do with mission? Excellent. You know what? That is a very correct answer. Because in mission, and this is actually something that is very important, when God created Adam and Eve, He didn't create them as slaves. He didn't create them as underlings. He didn't create them as robots. He created them in His own image. And part of that image, He gave them dominion, authority. When we go, and this is one of the biggest problems, and Abuna actually would tell you a lot about this, one of our biggest issues as Copts, specific and in general as mission, when we go to these mission roles, we always feel bad about them, we take them some clothes, we take them some food, and we always talk down to them. We always talk down to them. We never actually care to lift them up from where they're at, so that they would be on our own image. When we care for them, do we even care to give them independence? That, you know what? God loved Adam so much that He created him independent to the point that Adam could rebel against Him and reject God. That's how much God loved Adam, gave him that freedom. When you go on mission and you care for somebody, are you tying him with ropes with you that he's so dependent on you that there's no way he can break that? He's no way that he can break that relationship? Part of the relationship is freedom. Part of the relationship is giving somebody the dominion. Part of that relationship is giving somebody the chance to excel, the chance to become better, the chance to have authority. So mission, when you look about mission, we don't do mission because we feel bad about those poor kids. We don't do mission because we just want to do a food drive and bring some food and give them the food because I know you're so hungry, so I'm just going to give you the food. When God did a mission to the earth, He created man on His image and glory. He created man with freedom. He created man with the dominion. He created man with the potential. He created man with the chance to be a better person. He created man with the world all in front of him and told him, you know what? All this is your dominion. Go at it. And sometimes when we do mission, and this is sometimes, I've seen it in some countries, when we go, we feel that we're a bit better than them. We're here to help you. We're here to kind of نطبطب عليك كده, and the back is like, I feel bad about you, but I'll always be better than you. I know the way to salvation. Hey, I was born up in the Coptic church. At the Coptic church, we know it all. I've got the path. But when God looks at mission, the honor that he gave to Adam is the honor that we sometimes miss out and do not give to the people we serve and we do a mission to. I think, what Abuna Kanama might share that with you is that although you might see amazing examples of people who serve in these countries, but for example, they would never assimilate to the people in that country. Sometimes they would never actually eat a meal with them. Sometimes, when you're sitting down, you'd be sitting on the table, and you know what, I see this, I've been on so many mission trips, and I really despise when we're eating, and you find the Coptic group sitting over there eating, chit-chatting with each other, and the natives sitting over there eating with each other. Seriously? Is that our vision of the kingdom of heaven? Is that our vision of honor? Is that our vision of when we create, when God created, when we go on mission? Is that the image? It is sad. But yet, we would have the guts to tell them, hey, come and take a picture with me and smile, because I want to put this picture on my Facebook account. Right? Because I want to feel good about myself. That's not what God did. When God created, he created on image and likeness. What's in this picture? Somebody from the back. How about you? What's in this picture? It is in this. What is in this picture? Adam and Eve, and this at what stage? This is pre-fall, after fall. After fall. How do you know it's after fall? Right, so God gave them, what is this there? What is this image there? What did God do when he kicked them out? He did what? He called them, okay? And then he put somebody over there to prevent them from going back in. Who's the somebody? A what? Angel, okay, thank you. So this is the fall. This is the fall. What does this got to do with mission? What does this got to do with mission? Can somebody tell me?
Obstacles.
Okay, you're going the right way. What do you mean by obstacles? Keep going.
Maybe our thoughts about the mission.
Okay, so the people that we're serving in the mission, obstacles happen. Okay, what do we do wrong, and what does this picture tell us we should be doing? Okay, okay, could be. So let me give it this way. When God created Adam, that was a mission. Okay, in fact, they call it the Missio Dei, which is the mission of God. He created Adam. Created Adam in the previous picture, I said he created him with freedom. Okay? Created him on image, created him with honor. Adam rebelled, rejected the relationship. Right? Did God cut the relationship? Did God cut the relationship? Did God offer right there, right now, a solution to the problem? Right there, right now. Did he? You say yes. Okay. What way? Okay, but the punishment still went through. So God didn't fix the problem altogether, but offered a seed of help. Okay? Going back to what you said, in mission, which I think actually also when I look at it in terms of a relationship, when we're serving, let's look each other in the eye. Any one of you here who serves knows very well that it's very rewarding and very appeasing To go to a mission or to go in a service where people are accepting you and playing nice with you and accepting your words and saying, yeah, Abuna, we love you. We love the words you're saying. Right? What if they rejected what you said? What if they said, you know what? We don't like what you're saying. What if you gave them love and they said, you know what? I don't want your love. What if you went to somebody, a homeless person, and you gave them a sandwich and he took that sandwich and threw it in your face? What would you do? So I remember one time when we were in Bolivia, we went to a slum to get some, to give people blankets. It was at that time of winter. And there was this kid who was, you know, was a little kid, but he was definitely, he looked like he was mentally challenged, okay, mentally handicapped. And he kept coming, and in his way, he kept harassing some of the youth on the trip, wanting to take their clothes. You know, it was like, you know, I like your shoe, can I have your shoe? You know, I like your shirt, your jacket. Can you give me that? Okay? And you know, they gave him some stuff, but he kept demanding over and over and over again. And you know what, it got to be too much for them. And I told them, just stay calm, stay quiet. And then, you know, we finished giving out the blankets. And when we went onto the bus, this kid was so mad that he started hurling at the bus rocks. Okay? He started hurling rocks at the bus and mud. So some of the youth were like, you know, appropriately very mad and very upset. But they got to a point where it was like, well, you know, they're almost getting, like, crossing the line is like, you know what, this kid needs to be punched. You know, it's like, you know what, I regret that we even came. I regret that we even gave him anything. We shouldn't have even given him, you know, what we gave him initially. So I challenged them with that question. So you feel good about your mission only if people accept your love and accept your gift and accept what you're given, accept the relationship. So you feel okay by yourself with that? What if they reject you? What if they say no? What if they kill you for that message? Isn't what that happened with Jesus Christ? One of our biggest problems in mission is that we condition our mission by the acceptance of the people to what we give. Acceptance of the people, of the relationship that we want to force on them. But the fact, when you look at this story, this is what God did. When the mission was in front of him, when we rejected him, when he had that obstacle, he still continued. And as tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit. What if your mission is a complete failure? Would you do it again? What if your mission is a complete disaster? Would you do it again? In fact, the mark of a true servant is when they keep doing what God asked them to do, when they see that it is in front of their eyes still failing. When people are rejecting them. So, 2 weeks ago I was on a flight to Los Angeles and I couldn't sleep. So I watched a movie. I don't watch a lot of movies, primarily not because I'm against movies, because just I don't have too much time. But it was a movie that somebody recommended for me. It's called Silence. Story of the Jesuit missionaries who were in Japan in the 1600s. And how they were tortured to the point of killed. But what the thing about the movie is, amazingly, is when they were rejected, how did they react to that rejection? That was one of the most amazing things to me. And how did the grace of God keep them, even though that some of them could not handle this rejection, because some of them said, you know what, it doesn't make sense. If they're rejecting us, khalas, just give it up. Cut the relationship. But that is the reality. What's in this image? Tower of Babel. Okay, what does the Tower of Babel got to do with mission? What is in the Tower of Babel got to do with mission? Would you like to take a stab at it? Try, give it a try. So let me help here. When God, in the Garden of Eden, told Adam, he gave him a command. Okay, what was the command? Huh? He told him, yeah, other than that one. Other than that one. You know, multiply, be fruitful, you know, and the whole world at that time was, you know, your dominion. So part of it was kind of spreading, okay, the whole image of God. What happened in the Tower of Babel? What was the thing that they didn't do? What was the people, what did they sin in? What was their problem? Huh? Okay, build a name for himself. Well, what else? There was something before that. Huh? Okay, what else? What is it like? Is a theme about spreading? Huh? So, one of the things that they want to do over here is that you say that, you know what? Lest we be scattered. Okay? We don't want to be scattered in the whole world. So, who told them you're supposed to be scattered in the whole world? It was God. Because part of God's command at that time is like, you know what? You've got a blessing, spread it out. You've got the image of God, spread it out. You've got the word of God, spread it out. But they said, you know what? Hey, we don't want to be scattered. We don't want to be spread out. In fact, we're going to stay in this place. And because we want to stay in this place, okay, we're going to build a huge tower. God probably, and I'm just reading into God's mind, probably had in his mind the image of somebody like Abraham who was with a tent going around everywhere blessing people, right? Because that's how God's word spreads. But at that time they said, you know what? No, I don't want to get scattered. I don't want to go anywhere. You want me to go to those guys in the backyard there? It's like, seriously? I'm going to stay in my church. Okay? Yeah, and he cut them together in my own domain. And then I'll make a name for myself. And it will reach the heavens. So then God punished them and they were cursed. What was one of the manifestations of this curse? They started, yes?
They spoke different languages.
Spoke different languages. Excellent. You got a great kid. Spoke different languages. Why was this a curse? Huh? They couldn't understand each other. It divided them. But there's something even more. Prior to this, more likely than not, they were all united in worship of God with one language. And when they refused to take that one language and use it and spread it out, their languages became a dividing point. So not only they became confused, but they also cannot worship at the same time. You know where does this curse, where is it reversed? So a lot of biblical points there. Where does this curse of languages and tongues get reversed? Yes. Where? Pentecost, thank you. Because at that time, the curse, God through the Spirit reverses it. Because that's the mission at that time. And then he gives them the speaking of tongues. And you know where this curse is going to be completely annihilated? Huh? Which book we read that? What is in Revelation? What does it say? Around the Lamb, from every and tongues. Tongues. So when we go to other people and we do the mission and we talk to them, we speak their language, whether it is literally or with our lives. Huh? When we speak to them with their language, we are bringing what is happening in the image of Revelation to happen right now. When we say, thy kingdom come, the kingdom is now, that's exactly what's happening in Revelation. Because this curse of the tongues which caused people to confusion is reversed by the work of the Holy Spirit that started in Pentecost, is working through us right now to be completed where? At the kingdom of heaven, around the Lamb, where from every tongue, from every nation, from every people, all glorifying the slain Lamb. So when we live other people's lives and speak their language with our mouths and with our lives, we're bringing the kingdom of heaven down to them. That is the reversal of curse. A couple more pictures and we'll be done. What's in this picture? I'll tell you it's Abraham. Okay? What's in this picture? How about you guys? You guys are a little bit sleepy. I'm going to ask you, what is in this picture? What was Abraham doing that time? Was he trying to figure out how to navigate the stars? Is he lost in the desert? So, okay, I'll give you a hint. There are many stars. Okay. What were these many stars? God gave him a promise. What did God promise him? And the sand and the stars. Excellent. So this is the election of who? Of Abraham, right? God elected Abraham, and after him was Isaac and Jacob and the whole people of Israel. So the concept then, the question I'm going to ask you now. What does election got to do with mission? What does election got to do with mission? What do you think? So God chose somebody. Why did he choose? What does this got to do with mission? Okay, what else? Being equipped because he gave him a promise, and without giving him a power. What else? Was that, so let me ask you an easier question. Did God choose Abraham because Abraham was just such a special guy? That's actually what the Jews said. We're the sons of Abraham. We're special. We're special. Okay, let me ask another question. Why does God elect people in the whole big story of missions? Why does God elect people? Just because nobody, why do you think that we're all born into the church? By the way, if any one of you has listened to a witness of somebody who's not born Christian and became a Christian, you will find out how lucky we are. And I can tell you, we're all completely blinded and completely oblivious to the privilege of being elected from our birth to be Christians. We're completely blind to that privilege. So when God elects somebody like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the whole people of Israel, the Coptic church, I'll name it, all of you can. When God does that, why does he do that? Is it because that he wants you to kind of make your own group? That's what the Israelites thought when they said to Jesus, like, we're the sons of Abraham. In fact, if they would have gone and read back what God told them, is like, you know what? Now your name is going to be father of a... When he changed his name, what was his new name? What was the meaning of his new name? Father of a... Huh? Nations. Is it only Jews? Is it only Israelites? No. So when God elected Joseph to become the second man in Egypt, to save the world, there's a reason for that. Let me now hit it in your face. When God elects us in his providence, just like Jeremiah, I knew you before you were born, that he takes right now in the history of the Coptic church some of the best educated, the most intelligent, the most privileged boys and girls that ever existed in the history of the Coptic church. Do you think that he did all this for us so we just live the American dream? Really? And our poor villagers who are just, you know what, I feel so sad for them. These poor people that literally, their only fusha, their only outing is to leave their village and walk into a desert to go to a monastery. That's their only way of having some fun. And not even that they could get it. So when God elects us to be in this situation that you're in right now, being educated in the best institutions in the world, getting the best careers, having more money than anyone in our whole Coptic church over 2,000 years had. Living in a country that is giving us more freedom than what we even believed. Do you guys even understand what it means that you can go to church not feeling threatened that this will be your last liturgy? Do you understand that? Do you understand how it just, that sense of like, hey, all right, I'm married, I've got 3 kids, so should we go to liturgy today? Maybe I'll go, I'll leave my wife just in case, Maybe I'll take one of the kids so we'll have 2 other. Really? What I see is so sad is that we have that election. We have that election at this point. But what we're doing as Coptic youth, we're far more interested living our American dream than living what God meant by this. When you look at the biblical story from A to Z, from its beginning to its end, any time God elected a person, it was for that person to carry the mission on to the rest of the world. whether that was Abraham, whether that was Isaac, whether it was Jacob and his sons, and whether now, as Paul says, that we are the sons of Abraham. It's the same thing. So the point is that actually even when you look at the temple, the Jews got it wrong, because the Jews, one of the most beautiful verses that I love, is kind of interesting that you guys had Isaiah 61, because when Solomon dedicated the temple, you would think that it was dedicated primarily for the Jews. It was dedicated just for the Israelites. But in fact, at that time when Solomon prayed the prayer in 1 Chronicles, that this house would declare his glory among the nations. Among the nations. Isaiah says, "For my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations." I'm going to challenge all of you and ask you the question. What do you look at a Coptic church right now? Let's be honest. Do you look at the Coptic church as just for those who are born as Copts? Or, you know what, hey, if you get married to a Copt, they'll be fine? So, you know what, you just join in either by marriage or birth? Seriously? That is sad. That is sad. Because at that point, we kind of almost fall into that same kind of point, you know what, when the Israelites said, you know what, the temple is just for us. And you know what, okay, we might have a little bit of sympathy, so we're going to start making courts. There's an outer court for women. There's an outer court for Gentiles. It's like, you know what, you want to join the church? Well, you know what, we might figure out a way that you get, you know, in the outer side. Really? And you know what? And I'll show you the picture at the end. Remember this picture, because it's going to come again. Last two pictures. What is this picture? So, I'll give you some clues. So this is a wedding banquet. There's Christ, and these are some kind of not fun-looking people. What is this? It's a parable. What is this parable? What is it called? Huh? What is this parable called? Huh? I can't hear you. The wedding banquet. What is the parable of the wedding banquet? You just explained it, Barak.
There were people invited and they all made excuses that they were too busy.
Okay.
So then the host said, well then if they won't come, go to all the streets and invite anyone else. So all the hosts
Did he describe who were being invited? The lame, the poor, the blind. Yeah, exactly. So he said, like, they look just horrible. They're like, you know, they will never invite them to wedding banquet. Did he bring them only one time, or? That's actually a trick question, because in one gospel it's one time, and another gospel is 2 times. The Gospel of Luke actually mentions the second time. Just go, you know what? And maybe there's some people underneath the bridge. Just go and get them. What is the wedding banquet got to do with mission? It's what? Of what? Inclusive of whom? I love what you said. Inclusive of whom? All nations. Who else? And now, you know what? Look around you. Think of your friends. Think of your co-workers. Think of your fellow students. Think of the people that you play soccer with. Who else? Think of the person that you've deemed unworthy to even come to church. Think of the drunk. Think of the rapist. Think of the worst sinner that you could even think of. Think of Paul. Think of St. Moses the Black. Think of the people that, you know what, unfortunately, I do see right now that we're becoming, honestly, a bit hypocritical, a bit too easy. I'll give you, a story that just stuck in my mind since I was young. I started service in Egypt in one of the churches in Cairo, Sma Ard al-Gulf. And before I, got married and I came to the States. And I remember we used to have the summer camp. Summer camp was kind of the best thing ever because we used to take them in a beautiful, great place. It was great stuff. I was serving at that time middle school boys. And we used to have it was only 100 kids, 100 middle school boys. It was a lot of work. It was you would come back from that week and you were dead. So we're going through the list and there was always not enough space. There was the church was 10,000 families, so there was not enough space to take all the kids. So we're kind of going through the name, and then I remember one of the servants, he became a priest right now because he actually realized at that time the mistake that he did, but he learned his lesson. So we were going at that time through the list of names, and our Amin al-Khidma, the servant coordinator at that time, so we're going through names, and like, you know what, this kid is a devil. Really, do you want to take him? No, put him on the waiting list. It's like, this kid is good, you know what? And I see him every time at this bath. Take him on this. And we started selecting, and it's like, I was asking you, like, you know what, Ayman, what are you doing? It's like, George, you know what, it's a lot of hard work. We need to really get a group that's going to really, follow the rules. Play the game with us. Shana, we want a spiritual trip. We want to do spiritual stuff. So I said, Ayman, but that doesn't make sense. Because the kids that we're casting out who are as devils and as demons, who be troublemaking, are the ones for them, this is the chance that they might even hear about Christ. But we didn't think that they would be good kids. And we started to come to the realization that, you know what? In fact, if this camp would be of any meaning, it would be meaningful for those that we have deemed as unworthy. The poor, the lame, and the blind. And you know what? At that time, we changed our rules. We said, you know what? We're going to actually double the effort, do 2 camps, especially to bring those kids that we think are completely worthless and are lost. But then I tell you, look around you. When you go around and you're at a traffic light and there's this homeless guy that appears completely drunk and on drugs and begging, and you know very well you're going to give him this $1, he's going to go and get some drugs. And you look at him, and in your heart, you're saying, just like the Pharisee, I'm better. God, thank you. I'm not like this guy. Maybe this is the guy that we as a church have to bring. So that is the wedding banquet. Last image in the big story of mission. What is this? So this is the temple. What is this happening down there? This is the last one, so thank you for bearing with me. This is where it wraps up. So pay attention. What is the image down there? So I said this is the temple, and this is the temple as well. What's happening in those 2 stories? So I'll give you a clue. This is now year 70 after Christ. What happened in the year 70 after Christ? The destruction of the temple. Why do you think God allowed His temple, His place, the place that Solomon said that your name shall be called upon it? Why did God allow that? Why did God allow that? Because here is the finale of the story of the mission from beginning to end. God, when He created the world with love and honor to human beings, that honor to human beings was to all human beings. When human beings failed, God did not cut the relationship. He cared about them so much, even though He gave them the freedom to rebel against Him. And when they rebelled, He said, you know what, I'm going to save you. He gave a seed of a solution at that time, that the Son of Man shall crush the head of the serpent. When man had a hard time, and you know what didn't spread the word, God elected some people in the form of Abraham and his children. And then He allowed them to build a temple. And this temple was supposed to be for all nations to come and glorify His name. When they refused that all nations would come, and in fact they turned to become a judgment for their own people, okay? And they started building more courts and more courts and more obstacles. He told them at that time, your house shall be desolate. And the curtain was ripped when He died on the cross. But you know what? The story of the temple doesn't end there. You know why? Because God made a big change. Instead of the Old Testament, the temple was come and see. So everyone would come and see, and when you come, maybe I'll accept you or not. If you're a God-fearer, maybe I'll let you come in. Instead of the come and see strategy, God changed the temple to become go and witness. Go and witness. God figured out that, you know what, that temple that is built of stones, is not doing the job for the mission. You know, if I'm kind of head of a mission, and I'm looking at stuff, I'm looking at how things are, God deemed that that strategy fulfilled its purpose for some time. But that strategy of, you know, come and see, didn't work with the Jews. Didn't work. They did not spread the word of God. In fact, they made their faith so private that no one could even enter it, no matter what. So God said, you know what? Khalas, that temple is going to left desolate. But instead of that temple, there's going to be temples. You, me. We are the temple of God. Because that temple, instead of come and see, it is go and witness. Go and make disciples. You see that, how that ties into the story? God is not going to wait for people to come and see. He's going to say that you go